Have you ever wondered if the simple bowl of rice on your dinner table might secretly be spiking your blood sugar? It sounds surprising, but for Americans over 60, how you cook and eat rice can truly shape your health. Research from trusted sources like the American Diabetes Association and Harvard School of Public Health shows that even small tweaks, like soaking rice, adding a splash of vinegar, or letting your rice cool before eating, can dramatically lower its impact on your blood sugar and support your gut health. So don't panic or give up rice altogether. Instead, stay tuned as we dive into 7 easy hacks that can transform your rice from a hidden threat into a powerful ally for your health in your golden years. Before we jump in, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Elderly Health Tips for more science-backed insights on living well after 60. Number 1, small but important tip for rice. Add vinegar while cooking. Did you know that adding just 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar to your pot of rice can cut down the blood sugar impact of that meal by nearly a third? Sounds pretty surprising, right? But this isn't some random kitchen rumorettes backed by real science. And the coolest part is, these numbers aren't just stuff you read on the internet. They come from legit research. For instance, a study published in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that adding vinegar to starchy meals could reduce the glycemic index by about 31%. In simple terms, after eating rice or bread, your blood sugar doesn't spike nearly as high as it normally would. Another American study, printed in Diabetes Care back in 2004, showed that drinking vinegar before a starchy meal could drop post-meal blood sugar levels by 25 to 35%. And this effect happened not just in people with insulin resistance, like pre-diabetics or diabetics, but even in healthy folks. Think about a bottle of vinegar costs just a few bucks, yet its benefits rival a lot of pricey supplements out there. The secret of vinegar lies in acetic acid. Researchers at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health explain that acetic acid slows down how quickly your stomach empties food into your intestines. In everyday language, it means food stays in your stomach longer, so the sugars from rice, bread, pasta, and so on enter your bloodstream more slowly and steadily instead of all at once. That's super important, especially for older adults. As we age, our bodies become more sensitive to those sharp swings in blood sugar, which can leave people feeling drained, dizzy, or even shaky. Plenty of doctors in the US say their older patients often ask why they feel wiped out just an hour or two after a meal, and a big part of the reason is these blood sugar roller coasters. But vinegar isn't just about blood sugar. Another study published in the journal Appetite found that people who included vinegar in their meals tended to feel fuller faster and ate fewer calories later on. In other words, vinegar can help curb your appetite, which is a huge plus if you're trying to manage your weight. And in America, weight management, especially for older adults, isn't just about how you look in jeans. It's tied to heart health, diabetes, joint pain, and even sleep quality. Here's another interesting tidbit. Lots of people worry that adding vinegar to rice will make it taste sour. But honestly, if you stick to the right amount, about a tablespoon for an entire pot, you'll barely taste it. Some folks even say it makes the rice taste cleaner, less starchy, and leaves them feeling less heavy after eating. And a few chefs in the US use this trick to help rice stay bright white longer because vinegar has mild antibacterial properties. There's more good news for the heart. A large meta-analysis published in Critical Reviews in Food Science and Nutrition in 2020 analyzed several trials and found that vinegar consumption was linked to lower total cholesterol, LDL cholesterol, and triglycerides. For folks in their senior years, keeping those numbers in check can help lower the risk of heart attacks and strokes. And here's something fascinating. Research from Japan, where vinegar is used often in rice preparations, shows that habitual vinegar intake is associated with lower visceral fat and waist circumference, both critical factors for older adults trying to prevent metabolic syndrome. One Japanese study in bioscience, biotechnology, and biochemistry tracked participants for 12 weeks and found that those who consumed vinegar daily lost 1 to 2 kilograms more than those who didn't, without changing anything else in their diet. For digestion, vinegar can help older adults who often complain about sluggish digestion. Acetic acid has antimicrobial properties, which may help balance gut bacteria, though the research here is still emerging. But many of my older patients report less gas, less bloating, and an easier time after meals when they add a splash of vinegar here and there. But let's talk safety. Always choose natural vinegars like apple cider vinegar with the mother, that cloudy stuff full of good bacteria rather than synthetic vinegars made with chemicals and flavorings. And keep it to about a tablespoon per meal. Too much vinegar can erode tooth enamel or irritate your stomach lining, especially if you have reflux or ulcers. So my advice is this. If rice is a staple for you, like it is for so many Americans, try this simple hack. It could help keep your sugar smoother, protect your heart, and even make you feel a bit lighter after meals. It's such a small change, but the science behind it is mighty strong. Here's another great tip. Soak your rice before cooking. It's not just about tossing a bit of vinegar into your rice, but turns out, how you prep your rice before cooking can make a big difference for your health, especially as you get older. A lot of folks in the US, I think rice just needs a quick rinse and then straight into the cooker for convenience. But honestly, soaking your rice for just 30 minutes before cooking can make your meal way easier on your stomach and boost how many nutrients your body actually absorbs. Here's why. Natural rice grains contain phytic acid, a compound that nutrition experts jokingly call a nutrient thief because it latches onto important minerals like calcium, iron, and zinc, making them harder for your body to absorb. When you soak rice, water helps dissolve some of that phytic acid, freeing up those precious minerals so your body can use them. According to the Journal of Food Science and Technology, soaking rice for just 30 to 60 minutes can reduce phytic acid levels by anywhere from 20 to 50%, depending on the rice type. That's a pretty significant drop, especially for older adults who are more prone to mineral deficiencies. And mineral deficiencies are no joke for people over 60 in the US. For example, Harvard TH. Chan School of Public Health points out that about 10% of Americans over 65 have anemia due to iron deficiency, which leaves them feeling exhausted, lightheaded, or out of breath even climbing a flight of stairs. Low zinc, according to the National Institutes of Health, NIH, can weaken the immune system, making you more likely to catch colds or infections. And calcium deficiency? That's a major player in brittle bones and higher risk of fractures, where even a minor stumble can cause a break. What's awesome is that soaking rice doesn't just help unlock minerals, it also makes the rice easier to digest. Lots of dietitians here say older patients often complain about bloating or indigestion after eating rice. But when rice is soaked, natural enzymes in the grain start breaking down some of the complex starches, making the cooked rice softer and gentler on the stomach. Many people over 60 who used to shy away from rice because it felt too heavy find that soaked rice leaves them feeling much more comfortable after meals. Here's another cool thing. If you combine soaking your rice and adding a splash of apple cider vinegar while cooking, as we talked about earlier, it's like flipping on a protective mode for both your blood sugar and your gut. Both tricks help slow down how fast sugar from the rice hits your bloodstream, which is great for people managing diabetes and helps avoid that drained, sluggish feeling after a meal. It's not just about soaking rice for better mineral absorption, it's also a real lifesaver for your gut, especially as you get older. The International Journal of Food Science points out that rice naturally contains certain compounds called enzyme inhibitors. Basically, these are little troublemakers that force your stomach and intestines to work overtime breaking down starchy foods. But when you soak rice, some of these compounds get reduced, giving your digestive system a break and making things a lot smoother. This is super important because as we age, the amount of stomach acid we produce naturally drops. Less acid means slower digestion, especially for starchy foods like rice, bread, or pasta. Tons of older adults in the US complain that after eating rice, they feel bloated, gassy, or just plain uncomfortable. The American Gastroenterological Association even estimates that nearly 30% of older adults deal with frequent bloating or indigestion. Sometimes, just tiny changes in how you prep your food, like soaking your rice, can make a huge difference and turn meals back into something enjoyable instead of a dreaded event. And here's something a lot of people don't even think about. Soaking rice can also help reduce arsenic levels. Yep, that same arsenic that's classified as a carcinogen if you're exposed to too much over time. Research from the FDA and Consumer Reports has warned about inorganic arsenic in rice, especially rice grown in areas of the US with contaminated soil. Sounds scary, right? While soaking doesn't remove all the arsenic, studies show it can cut levels by about 15 to 25%. For younger, healthy folks, a bit of arsenic here and there might not be a huge deal. But for older adults, whose kidneys often aren't working as efficiently, any toxins that build up in the body deserve serious attention. Of course, it's important not to go overboard. The USDA has warned that leaving rice soaking at room temperature for longer than 3 hours can create the perfect breeding ground for bacteria like Bacillus cereus. And that's no joke, it can produce toxins that cause diarrhea, nausea, stomach cramps, or even serious food poisoning. For older adults with weaker immune systems, food poisoning can be more than just an upset stomach hit. It can lead to dehydration, low blood pressure, and much more serious complications. So my advice is pretty simple. Rinse your rice thoroughly, soak it for about 30 minutes to an hour, and don't leave it sitting out too long. Then drain it well and cook it as usual. It's a small step, but one that brings big benefits. Softer, easier to digest rice, better mineral absorption, lower arsenic levels, and a lighter, more comfortable feeling after you eat. And think about it. If you're already soaking your rice, and then you add a splash of apple cider vinegar while cooking like we talked about earlier, you're giving yourself a meal that's not only tasty, but also protective for your bones, blood sugar, digestion, and long-term health. Sometimes, it's those tiny kitchen habits that make the biggest difference once you're past 60. Here's tip number 3, which is great for older adults. Pick brown rice over white rice. After talking about soaking rice, arsenic, and adding vinegar, we've got to shine a light on another superstar in the rice world, brown rice. This is the stuff that a lot of nutritionists in the US keep recommending, especially for older adults. And it makes total sense. Brown rice keeps its bran and germ layers, which are stripped away when making white rice. And those 2 layers are absolute treasure troves, packed with fiber, B vitamins, magnesium, and antioxidants that help fight aging and disease. According to the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, 1 cup of cooked brown rice has about 3.5 grams of fiber compared to less than 1 gram in white rice. That's a huge deal, especially for folks over 60. Fiber doesn't just help keep things moving in the bathroom avoiding constipation, which is super common as we age, but also slows down how quickly your body digests and absorbs sugars from your meal. That means your blood sugar doesn't spike like a roller coaster, but stays steadier and easier to manage. The American Diabetes Association has also pointed out that swapping refined grains, like white rice or white bread, for whole grains, like brown rice, can help lower HbA1c levels, the marker that shows your average blood sugar, over the past 3 months by about 0.3% to 0.5%. That might sound tiny, but over time, it can significantly cut the risk of diabetes complications and help protect your eyes, kidneys, and nerves. Doctors in the US love telling patients, don't underestimate those small percentage drops. In medicine, just lowering HbA1c by 0.5% can help you avoid a ton of serious complications. But that's not all. Brown rice is also a great buddy for your heart. Research from the American Heart Association has found that eating more whole grains can help slightly lower blood pressure and reduce bad cholesterol, LDL. For older adults, keeping blood pressure and cholesterol in check isn't just about avoiding strokes or heart attacks. It also helps lower the risk of dementia down the road. Plenty of studies have shown that vascular health directly impacts brain health. Of course, there's a bit of a caveat. Because brown rice still has its bran layer, it's higher in fiber, which can be a little tough on folks with sensitive digestive systems like those dealing with ulcers or irritable bowel syndrome. So doctors here often recommend easing into it slowly, starting with small portions to let your gut adjust and avoid bloating or discomfort. The best part? If you combine the soaking trick I shared earlier with switching to brown rice, It's like building yourself a rock-solid protective shield, reducing arsenic risk, absorbing more minerals, keeping blood sugar steady, and helping your heart stay strong. Lots of people think you need expensive supplements to stay healthy as you get older, but sometimes just changing what's in your daily bowl of rice gets you halfway there toward living healthier and feeling better. There's emerging evidence that whole grains like brown rice may reduce the risk of certain cancers. A large study in the Journal of Nutrition followed over 500,000 people and found that higher whole grain intake was linked to a 12% lower risk of colorectal cancer. The fiber and phytochemicals in brown rice are thought to help by reducing inflammation and improving gut health, which is essential as our bodies age and our digestive systems become more sensitive. Weight control is another area where brown rice shines. Data from the Nurses' Health Study and the Health Professionals Follow-Up Study, covering more than 120,000 people, found that people who ate more whole grains consistently gained less weight over a period of 20 years compared to those eating mainly refined grains. That's vital for older adults because maintaining a healthy weight helps reduce joint pain, lowers the risk of diabetes, and protects heart health. But let me add a word of caution. Brown rice does contain slightly more arsenic than white rice because arsenic tends to accumulate in the outer layers of the grain. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, advises that older adults and people who eat rice frequently vary their grains, mixing in other whole grains like quinoa, barley, or bulgur to reduce arsenic exposure. The good news is that rinsing brown rice thoroughly and cooking it in excess water like pasta can reduce arsenic levels by about 30 to 60%, according to Consumer Reports. So here's my friendly advice. If white rice has been a staple in your kitchen, consider trying brown rice a few times a week instead. Not only can it help steady your blood sugar and protect your heart, but it might even help keep your weight in check and lower your cancer risk. It's a simple swap, but the science behind it is truly impressive. Tip number 4, don't eat rice on its own. Here's a rule I wish every older adult knew. Never eat a bowl of plain white rice all by itself, because pairing it with protein and healthy fats can transform how your body handles sugar, protect your heart, and keep your energy steady. As a doctor who's been treating older Americans for over 30 years, I've seen countless times how this simple habit can mean the difference between feeling vibrant and feeling drained. Let me explain why. Plain white rice, when eaten alone, digests incredibly fast and turns almost immediately into glucose in your bloodstream. This rapid spike can cause your blood sugar to soar, which isn't just bad for folks with diabetes. It also stresses your heart, kidneys, and even your brain. According to the American Diabetes Association, high post-meal spikes contribute to inflammation and oxidative stress, both of which accelerate aging and increase the risk of complications like heart disease, dementia, and vision loss. And it's not a rare problem. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, estimates that nearly 48.8% of Americans aged 65 and older have either diabetes or prediabetes. But here's the good news. Adding protein and healthy fats to your rice can dramatically blunt those spikes. A clinical study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed that when people consumed protein and fat along with carbohydrates, their blood sugar rise after meals dropped by 20 to 50% compared to when they ate carbs alone. That's a huge difference, enough to help reduce long-term complications. For instance, research from the Diabetes Care Journal found that reducing post-meal glucose spikes can lower the risk of heart attacks in people with diabetes by as much as 49%. I think of my patient, Mrs. Doris, 72, from Georgia. She used to eat bowls of white rice for lunch and told me she'd get shaky, anxious, and exhausted by mid-afternoon. We swapped her meals, so she started eating rice with grilled chicken and half an avocado. In just a couple of months, her post-meal blood sugars dropped by 30 to 40 mg/dl, and she says she felt calm and energetic, no more crashing or sugar cravings. Pairing rice with protein is crucial for preserving muscle as we age. Sarcopenia, or age-related muscle loss, affects nearly 1 in 3 adults over 60, according to the National Institute on Aging. Losing muscle means weaker balance, higher fall risk, and less independence. Studies in the Journal of Nutrition. Health and Aging show that older adults who consume at least 25 to 30 grams of protein per meal preserve muscle mass better and maintain physical function longer. So, adding lean meats, fish, eggs, or plant proteins to your rice is more than just a blood sugar fix. It's a way to stay strong and independent. Research in the Journal of Lipid Research and from Harvard shows that monounsaturated fats like those in olive oil, avocado, and certain nuts not only slow down digestion, reducing blood sugar spikes, but also lower systemic inflammation. Chronic inflammation is linked to conditions like arthritis, heart disease, and cognitive decline. In one large meta-analysis from BMJ, people who ate higher levels of monounsaturated fats had a 12 to 19% lower risk of heart disease. For older adults, that's a significant benefit, considering heart disease remains the number one cause of death in Americans over 65. Let's not forget weight management. Eating rice with protein and fat helps you feel full longer, preventing overeating later in the day. Studies from the Obesity Society show that meals balanced with protein and healthy fats can reduce daily calorie intake by up to 400 calories simply because people aren't as hungry. That's crucial for older adults trying to manage weight to protect their joints, blood pressure, and metabolic health. Of course, I always remind patients to keep an eye on portions. Even healthy fats and proteins add calories, so moderation is key. A good rule of thumb is to fill half your plate with non-starchy vegetables, a quarter with lean protein, and a quarter with carbs like rice, plus a tablespoon or two of healthy fats. So if plain white rice has been your go-to meal, I'd urge you to rethink your plate. Pair it with lean proteins and healthy fats. It's one of the simplest ways to protect your health as you age. Tip number 5 requires a bit of flexibility. Mix in some oatmeal. Oats are rich in a unique soluble fiber called beta-glucan. According to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, consuming at least 3 grams of beta-glucan daily can reduce LDL cholesterol by about 5 to 10%, which in turn lowers the risk of coronary heart disease. That's significant because the American Heart Association reports that nearly 70% of adults over 65 have elevated cholesterol levels, putting them at greater risk for heart attacks and strokes. But oats don't just help the heart, they're excellent for blood sugar control. Research published in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed that adding beta-glucan to carbohydrate-rich meals slowed glucose absorption and reduced post-meal blood sugar spikes by 30 to 43%. That's critical since nearly half of Americans over 65 have diabetes or prediabetes, as noted by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC. Sharp blood sugar swings can leave you feeling exhausted, foggy-headed, or shaky, and over time contribute to nerve damage, kidney problems, and vision loss. Oats are also packed with important micronutrients like magnesium, which helps regulate blood pressure, and polyphenols, which have antioxidant properties that protect cells from inflammation and aging. A review in Nutrients Journal found that older adults who consume more whole grains, including oats, have a 19% lower risk of dying from chronic diseases compared to those who eat mainly refined grains. That's powerful for staying healthier into your 70s and 80s. Oats can help your gut too. Beta-glucan acts as a prebiotic, feeding beneficial bacteria in the gut. Studies in the British Journal of Nutrition report that older adults who increased beta-glucan intake saw improvements in gut microbiome diversity and a reduction in harmful bacteria linked to inflammation. And we know from growing research that a healthy gut doesn't just mean better digestion. It's connected to mood, immunity, and even brain health as we age. But let me share a word of caution. While oats are fantastic, too much fiber all at once can cause bloating or gas, particularly in older adults whose digestive systems often slow down. The National Institute on Aging advises increasing fiber gradually, starting with 1 to 1.5 teaspoons of dry oats per cup of rice, like I recommend. And drink plenty of water to help fiber move smoothly through your system. So my friendly advice is this. If rice is part of your daily meals, think about giving it a nutritious boost with a spoonful of oats. It's a simple step that can support your heart, your blood sugar, your gut, and even help you feel fuller longer which is great for weight control. Tip number 6 is quite useful and easy to do. Add turmeric. Here's a golden trick hiding in your spice rack that might change your health. Sprinkling even a tiny pinch of turmeric into your warm rice can help lower inflammation, improve blood sugar control, and keep you feeling younger, a powerful bonus for anyone over 60. As a doctor who spent more than 30 years caring for older adults, I've seen how small tweaks like this can lead to big improvements, especially for folks managing chronic conditions. Let's dig into why. Turmeric's active compound, curcumin, is famous for its anti-inflammatory powers. According to research from the National Institutes of Health, NIH, curcumin has been shown to reduce insulin resistance by about 23%, an effect comparable to some mild diabetes medications like metformin in early-stage cases. That's huge, considering the CDC reports that nearly 48.8% of Americans aged 65 and older either have diabetes or are pre-diabetic. Improving insulin sensitivity means your cells pull sugar out of your bloodstream more effectively, avoiding those spikes and crashes that can leave you exhausted, shaky, or foggy-headed after meals. A large meta-analysis published in Phytotherapy Research reviewed 11 randomized controlled trials and found that curcumin supplementation significantly reduced fasting blood glucose levels by an average of 18.5 mg, DL, and HbA1c. The 3-month blood sugar average by 0.54%. For older adults, even small reductions like this can lower the risk of complications like neuropathy, kidney disease, and vision loss. I think of my patient, Mr. Harold, 71, from Ohio. He struggled with prediabetes and knee pain from arthritis. We started with a simple change. He began sprinkling about a quarter teaspoon of pure turmeric powder into his rice while it was still warm, about 3 times a week. After 4 months, his fasting blood sugar dropped from 128 to 110 mg/dL, and his HbA1c fell from 6.2% to 5.8%, moving him back out of the prediabetes range. Plus, he told me his knees felt significantly less stiff, and he could get back to gardening without as much pain. Inflammation is a root cause of many chronic diseases that affect older adults. Curcumin has been shown to reduce inflammatory markers like CRP, C-reactive protein, by as much as 30 to 40%, according to multiple studies reviewed in the Journal of Medicinal Food. That's vital because chronic inflammation is linked to arthritis, pain, cardiovascular disease, and even cognitive decline like Alzheimer's. A systematic review in Frontiers in Aging Neuroscience suggests that curcumin may help protect brain cells and improve memory performance in older adults, with some small trials showing improved cognitive scores in people with mild memory issues. Turmeric may also help support digestive health. Curcumin's anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties can help soothe the lining of the gut, reducing mild symptoms like bloating or discomfort. A clinical review in World Journal of Gastroenterology found that curcumin supplementation led to improvements in symptoms for people with mild irritable bowel symptoms and contributed to better gut microbiota balance. This matters because as we age, our digestive systems often become more sensitive and less efficient. But let me add a note of caution. Turmeric is potent, and a little goes a long way. The NIH and other researchers warn that high doses of turmeric might cause stomach upset in some people, especially if you have gallbladder disease or are taking blood thinners like warfarin, because curcumin can mildly thin the blood. That's why I recommend using pure turmeric powder rather than curry powder blends, which often contain salt and other spices that may not be suitable for people managing blood pressure or sodium intake. And always talk to your doctor if you have medical conditions or take regular medication. The final tip is very important, and I strongly recommend everyone keep it in mind. Let your rice cool down, then reheat it. Here's a food hack that sounds almost too simple, but can have a powerful impact on your health. Letting your rice cool for half an hour to an hour before reheating it can help lower blood sugar spikes, improve gut health, and even support weight management, which is a big deal for folks over 60. As a doctor who's been working with older adults for over 30 years, I've seen how not just what we eat, but how we prepare our food can make a real difference in health outcomes. Let me tell you why. When rice cools after cooking, some of its starches transform into resistant starch, which behaves very differently from regular starch. Instead of being quickly digested and converted into glucose in the small intestine, resistant starch travels mostly undigested into the large intestine. That's crucial because it means less sugar hits your bloodstream all at once. According to research in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, cooling and reheating rice can reduce its glycemic response by 20 to 40%, depending on the rice variety and how long it's cooled. For older adults dealing with diabetes or prediabetes, nearly 48.8% of Americans over 65, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC. This trick can help keep blood sugar from swinging wildly after meals. One fascinating study published in Diabetes Care found that resistant starch improved insulin sensitivity in healthy adults by 33%, which is similar to the effect seen with some medications used in early-stage diabetes management. That's a major benefit for older folks trying to avoid medication or reduce their dosages under a doctor's guidance. Resistant starch doesn't just help with blood sugar. It acts like a prebiotic, feeding good bacteria like bifidobacteria and lactobacilli in your gut. A review in Nutrients Journal found that including resistant starch in the diet significantly increased beneficial gut bacteria while reducing inflammatory markers. For older adults, that's crucial because a healthy gut microbiome helps protect against infections, supports immunity, and even impacts brain health. There's growing evidence linking gut health to cognitive function, and researchers at Harvard Medical School suggest that maintaining a balanced microbiome may help slow cognitive decline in aging. Resistant starch may also support weight management, something many older adults struggle with. Research in the Journal of Nutrition found that individuals consuming meals higher in resistant starch felt fuller and ate about 10 to 15% fewer calories over the next 24 hours compared to meals lacking resistant starch. That's incredibly valuable for seniors trying to manage weight without feeling deprived, which also helps protect joints, reduce inflammation, and lower the risk of chronic diseases like heart disease and certain cancers. And there's even a potential benefit for colon health. Studies published in Cancer Prevention Research suggest that resistant starch may help reduce the risk of colorectal cancer by promoting healthier cell turnover in the colon and reducing inflammation. That's important because colorectal cancer risk rises sharply after age 50, making dietary strategies for prevention especially relevant for older adults. But let me add a note of caution. Food safety is critical. The U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA, warns that rice left at room temperature for too long, generally more than 2 hours, can grow harmful bacteria like Bacillus cereus, which can cause food poisoning. So my advice is always to cool rice quickly, store it in the fridge, and eat it within 1 to 2 days. And make sure you heat it until it's steaming hot before eating. So there you have it, 7 simple yet powerful rice hacks that can help you keep your blood sugar steady, protect your heart, support healthy digestion, and feel your best as you age. Remember, it's often the smallest changes in our kitchen that bring the biggest rewards for our health and quality of life. Don't wait for tomorrow, start trying 1 or 2 of these tips today and see how your body thanks you. And if you found these insights helpful, give this a like, share it with someone who could use a little health boost, and don't forget to subscribe to Elderly Health Tips so you never miss more practical, science-backed ways to live well after 60. You deserve to feel strong, energized, and in control. Let's keep moving forward together.